another iteration of the email that I had sent out about save the dates. So this Wednesday, we had the session, the 90-minute session with Do Good, Be Good, about recruitment and retention. So it's going to touch both of those things, recruitment for next year. We had done a similar session last year, and it was about your marketing materials and how you're getting the word out to new members, potential new members. This year, we're doing it a little bit earlier. Last year we had done it in June, and we were asked to do it a little bit earlier because I think that everybody here who's going to have a program next year is interested in starting the recruitment process earlier in the year. Do Good, Be Good is also going to touch on retention because that's a huge topic as well, right? 100% recruitment and 85% retention. And so members, go through different life cycles of their service. And so anyway, so that's going to be a great session. We are going to have Life After AmeriCorps for all members. It's an option for all members. I know that your program is also probably doing Life After AmeriCorps type activities. Last year, it was only limited to 100 people. I just got word that any and all members can join this session. So I'll send out a link to register, and I'll make sure that your program officer has it as well. So they can make sure that your members are signed up. These are just some dates that we've already talked about in the past, but just a reminder that we have technical training. So basically 3 days of very targeted, poignant topics like, working on your financial reports, criminal history checks, member time, member management type things. We're going to have that. It's virtual on Tuesday, July 9th through Thursday, the 11th. And those are the times. So I think we have about 8 or 9 sessions. We are going to send out the agenda in the next month, and we're going to tell you who that session is for. So I know at your organizations, there's different people who play different parts at, different member management, site supervisors. So we're going to put on the agenda who that topic is relevant for, but obviously everybody's welcome to come to every session. And then we're going to have our in-person convening, which is going to be on Tuesday, August 6th to Thursday, August 8th. There's going to be a lot of new faces. Let me just say that out loud. It's going to be a great time. A lot of peer-to-peer learning. Sparkmill, who, if anybody was there last year at Maymont, is going to be facilitating that training again. We have different goals. Our state service plan is up for renewal. The Virginia Community Engagement Index is a new tool that we've been using this year. A lot of cool and innovative stuff that we're going to be talking about. I'm working on getting the trust there in person and the OIG there in person. So it's going to be awesome. We don't have a space for that yet. I'm pretty sure it's going to be at Maymont again, but just keep that on your radar. And at least one person from your program has to be there in person. Last year, some programs sent 2 or 3 people. If you have the budget, that sounds awesome. I'll just need a head count ahead of time, and we'll get into that, the nitty gritty, in the end of June, beginning of July. So we could do a lunch count and whatnot and make sure we have the correct space for everybody. Any questions about training? Okay. It was a lot of fun last year. So hopefully anybody on this call gets to join us. Let me pass it to Christina.
Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to give a brief update about formula grant making. So we can go to the next slide, thanks. We did submit our portfolio to AmeriCorps last week. So any applications that were selected and submitted as part of our portfolio will receive a letter from us by email, hopefully this week. And it will have further instructions on what's next. So what's next from AmeriCorps is they will perform their due diligence review, where they will review our submission and budgets and all that stuff. So there still may be corrections that are coming our way from AmeriCorps that we'll have to relay to you. So please, still be looking for emails from us about your application. We expect to receive our notice of grant award from AmeriCorps in mid-July. I believe the deadline that they've given is July 25th. So by then. We'll also be working on drafting contracts and getting those out to you once we receive the NOGA. So there will be a quick turnaround time if you if your program starts in August or September. So please look for that and work quickly to get the signatures when possible. So if there are any questions, I can try to answer them. We still are kind of, not able to communicate too much, but I can try to answer any questions, or if not, just look for communication from us about next steps. Alrighty.
Great. One quick note, last year we did try to get the contracts out to everybody pretty early. And some contracts were returned too late. So if Christina is going to be working with y'all to collect who needs to be the signatory, who's your authorized rep, so we can send that to procurement. And so please, obviously, number one, send us the right person. And two, if you can, there's different organizations on this call. There's universities, there's nonprofits, there's, government. If you can, do your own nudging of your authorized rep to get your contract signed, then the quicker you are able to start your program. Thank you, Christina. Quick criminal history check update. So we are going to have a session in July about criminal history checks, but I'm not sure if everybody has been keeping up. They are switching. Field print is going away, essentially. So TrueScreen is going to be the only approved vendor for all 3 checks for the sex offender, for the state, and for the federal. That transition is going to be happening, right? June through September. So all of your field print checks will still count. And what's going to happen is they're going to contact the program director and the authorized rep on the prime, which is Kathy and myself. And they also say that they're going to contact the person who is the contact registered on your TrueScreen account, because you will need to sign like an updated contract, essentially. If you don't receive that in June or July, let me know. I know that's, I don't know, it's kind of hard to put on your radar. It's like, whose email coming from? We're not 100% sure. There is an FAQ, and I'll make sure everyone gets the link to that on the AmeriCorps website. And it answers, all the questions like, well, what do I do with my field print? Are they still compliant? And they are. In January of 25, the My Fingerprint module is going to go away. So that's probably when, you won't be able to run any checks in field print anymore. So our policy moving forward, Virginia's policy will to use TrueScreen exclusively, which means we'll probably have to update your contracts, because in the RFA we use both field print and TrueScreen. But TrueScreen is going to be the only approved vendor. So I know that folks are like, well, what about my records? And we can talk about this in July as well, which is not helpful right now, but talking about keeping your records straight. Field print does hold your records for 7 years. That's kind of the length of how long a member can use their education award, right? So we want to know that they're eligible all 7 years if they don't use it. TrueScreen, I know there's been some talk about them holding your records for a shorter period of time. So if you have questions about that, we can look into them on the AmeriCorps website. But essentially, the commission does run reports from our end on our monitoring account. We've run them for every organization for the past 3 years. However, the grant agreement and the criminal history check stuff is the subrecipient's responsibility. So just ensuring that all of your members are adjudicated in the system, and then potentially running a report, checking it against your roster, and then keeping that in a grants file is probably best practice. So I'm not sure if anybody has any questions right now. I implore you to read the FAQ, and then come with any questions, and we can contact AmeriCorps if we don't know them. Okay, flying through this information on a Monday morning. Let me pass it to Sasha.
Fantastic. Hey, everyone. So I have had a couple of programs recently that have had questions about teleservice, and what is required to have their members teleserve at least part-time in their program at certain sites. So I wanted to take a minute to just review the high points of what you absolutely need to take care of before you can have members teleserve, and all of the important documents that go into that. To give a little bit of context, ASN did put out a memo containing their teleservice policy, and that is posted on Basecamp. You can also, I'm sure, find that through Google or wherever else is easy. So that outlines the key points that they want to see in your teleservice policies, and we're going to hit the high points of those now. Next slide. So AmeriCorps does allow teleservice under certain circumstances. Teleservice requires a higher degree of supervision and more rigorous verification of hours served than an in-person service does. Before your members can teleserve, you have to have a teleservice policy for your program and a signed member teleservice agreement on file. So when is teleservice not allowed? When is this not going to work out? Members may teleserve, they may not serve remotely. So AmeriCorps defines these two terms differently. To them, remote service is a member serving from outside of the geographic area that they are serving. So if you have a member who is in Maryland and your program is serving individuals in Southwest Virginia, that's not going to work because they're not in the same geographic area. But if you have a member who lives in Southwest Virginia and is looking to maybe teleserve a couple of days a week or due to a special circumstance, then that would be allowed because that is teleservice. Teleservice should not make up the entirety of a member's service hours. There does have to be some in-person component to the service. So the language that AmeriCorps uses is that they must be expected to be physically present either at the site or at community events during their term of service. It can't be 100% teleservice. And then the third circumstance to keep in mind is that service sites may allow teleservice, but they have to have a physical location in the community being served. So virtual service sites are not allowed. All of your sites have to have a physical presence. Next slide. How is teleservice different than on-site service? The biggest thing to keep in mind is that when reporting teleservice hours, a service description in the timesheet is not sufficient documentation of the hours served. AmeriCorps requires programs to meaningfully supervise and to, this is the really important bit, independently verify all teleservice activities. So that means that you need to have some form of documentation of the actual activities that were completed beyond just, the members saying that they performed certain activities. So members should be approved for a specific list of teleservice activities, and each activity must include a specific deliverable to be produced. Some examples of these, if members are doing online training, it could be just a few sentences about what they learned from the training. It could be obviously the completion certificate if it's a training that offers that. For other activities, if it's something like conducting virtual meetings with clients, it could be, a list of notes from the meeting, things like that. Obviously, if they're doing research, if they're creating, marketing materials, anything like that, it would be the physical product that they produce. You need to have some kind of physical proof of the activities that they performed during the time that they are teleserving. Next slide. Can my members teleserve? So if you're interested in allowing members to teleserve, you need to create a teleservice policy outlining the expectations and parameters of teleservice. Before any members can begin teleserving, they also have to sign a teleservice agreement, and you need to have that filed in their member file. Both your teleservice policy and your teleservice agreement should be approved by your program officer before they're implemented. It's really important that we make sure that these are meeting all of the requirements from AmeriCorps and that you're covering everything from a compliance standpoint. So please don't implement this on your own. We need to have a conversation about it. The other thing to note is that this doesn't have to be offered to all sites across your program. If you have certain sites that are interested in teleservice and others that are not, that's fine. It can be determined on a site-by-site basis. Next slide. So we have created a quick start guide to teleservice policy that gives you sample language for the teleservice policy. It gives you a template for the agreement, and then also just really, again, the high points of what needs to be included in both of these. You should also review the official ASN teleservice policy for a comprehensive understanding of AmeriCorps requirements, how they define all of these terms, what they are requiring that you include in your policy, as well as it does have information on potential liability or legal sanctions relating to teleservice, misuse, abuse, or fraud. And this is much the same as, it is for other timekeeping issues, timesheets, things like that. But again, the standards for teleservice are just a little bit higher, so you need to make sure that you're holding to those. Both of these resources are available in the Basecamp resource portal. And of course, you can always reach out to us if you need information on where to find those. Next slide. Does anyone have questions on anything relating to teleservice? I don't see anything in the chat right now. So of course, like I said, if you are interested in this in the future, if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to myself or Kim, and we will be happy to help you navigate it. But this is, just one of those things that is changing in the landscape of AmeriCorps, and I think it's helpful for us to all be informed.
Thank you, Sasha. Very important stuff. Let me pass it to Christina.
Hi again, everyone. I just wanted to give a brief update about the commission support fee. So first, before we go to the next slide, for anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, it's also called the commission fixed cost in your budget in Encore. This is the between 1% and 2% fee that the commission retains for our own partnership fee. So we can go to the next slide. So I have previously given an update to y'all that this year we were only going to retain 1%, even though you all had budgeted for 2% fee, and that we were going to perform an audit so that we could fix all of the costs and move forward. In the interim, in between, when I gave that update and we started performing the audit, we received updated guidance from AmeriCorps that we are actually able to retain the 2% fee that we actually originally intended. So, so we will now be retaining the full 2%. So just so you know, budget modifications will not be necessary at this time, and we are going to, as we said before, perform an internal audit and reconcile everything before the end of the program year so that you can determine the correct 2% amount, and then we'll work to make sure that your PERs are accurate. So the amount that the commission will retain will not be more than you have budgeted. So don't worry that, that you won't, there won't be any of that. So basically the next step is just that internally the commission will work to review all your PERs, figure out the correct amount that we are going to retain from your budget, and then work with you to make sure your PERs reflect that amount. So again, sort of the same thing that we were doing before. We're just going to be working internally and we'll be communicating with you. And just the update is that the amount will be slightly different. So if there are any questions about that, happy to take them. If not, just look for some communication from us before the end of the program year, so we have that all straightened out.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Christina. The next topic is the member survey. Back to Sasha.
Hey, everyone. Can you go to the next slide? So we are approaching the 2024 member survey season. We are hoping to get that out within the next couple of weeks. So we are in the process of finalizing the questions and what that is going to look like right now. For those of you who aren't familiar with this, every year we send out a survey to all of the AmeriCorps members in our portfolio across the state to get a sense of how their experience was during their term of service, anything that they feel could have been improved or where they feel that they could have been better supported, and to get a sense of what their next steps are. We want to hear from members on what parts of their service that they loved, where they needed more support, and where they're headed after AmeriCorps. Those are really the three topic areas that we're going to be focusing on this year. Next slide. So we need you all to help us get the word out. It is usually more helpful when we have our program teams sharing this out with their members than if the ask is only coming from us. So we're going to be really looking for your assistance in getting this link out to your members and encouraging them to complete the survey. On that same note, as you know, you always receive a report of the responses given by your members, and I hope those are useful to you. But I would love to hear from people either in the chat, or if you can raise your hand and come off mute, you're also welcome to do that. What information has been useful in the past? Are there any new questions that you would like to see? Any information you haven't seen before? Have you heard from your members on how we can maybe improve the experience for members, or anything that would make the survey a little easier for them to complete? And do you have any thoughts on what might be good ways that we can incentivize participation from members? I will give everyone a second to mull over that. And like I said, either raise your hand, come off mute, or put it in the chat. Okay, I am not seeing anything yet. So you all know where to find me if you think of anything after this call, any answers to these that you would like to share, please feel free to shoot me an email. But otherwise, just be on the lookout for an announcement, as I said, in the next month or so about the member survey being open, and we'll really appreciate your help in getting that out to your members. Next slide.
Okay. Half-hour call. I think it's a new record. Does anyone have any questions on topic for what we've talked about, or off or otherwise? Any comments? Here we are in May. I know it's a crazy time of year when we're trying to exit all of our members and then bring on new members. Then we have training, vacation, etc. So it's kind of crazy time of year. Anyone have any questions or comments or jokes?
Samantha, in the chat,
Yeah.
we have a question about
Sure.
when we can stop using field print.
So continue to use it. They're doing a transition from June to September, and then in January it's going to be next. So I'm not 100. They don't know when the absolute deadline is. So it might impact. You might still be using field print into 24-25, and then stop in September or October. You'll definitely stop by January, but for all intents and purposes, I would still continue to use field print until you hear otherwise. You'll have to update your contracts in TrueScreen, and then there's going to be right now you say you choose which checks you want to do for your member, and the federal fingerprint is going to become available. So once that becomes available, you'll schedule fingerprints through TrueScreen. So once it's available, you can start using it, if that makes sense. It's not even available right now, but once it is, you can click fingerprints, and then it'll schedule, similarly to field print, schedule your fingerprints for your members, and they can choose a time, etc. And they'll update Litmus when that all occurs. Good question. All right. Well, like Sasha said, you know where to find us in our virtual offices. So it's been a pleasure. Thank you to everybody who came to the convening last week. That was great. Love hearing from Jillian in the main office. If you have any questions or comments or, woes or jokes, contact us and we'll talk soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. See ya.